I will now call to order the Wytheville Town Council meeting Monday, April 22nd, 2024 at 5 p.m. at the Municipal Building, 150 East Monroe Street, Wytheville. We do have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice Mayor Kathy Patterson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll proceed with approval of tonight's agenda. I'll need a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. This is a roll call vote. I'm going to start with Councilman Gilman.
Gilman, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
For information, at 6 o'clock, we can schedule a recess if necessary. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of minutes of the work session and the regular meeting of April 8, 2024. I'll need a motion.
So moved.
A motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I hear none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well. Any opposed? That motion passes. We do have before us coming up, actually 3 public hearings tonight. I will ask those that wish to speak to come up to the podium and state their name and address. And if you are with a larger group, just let us know so we know how many hands to count for that particular person so everybody's not saying the same thing. Just remember, we are neighbors. Please show respect for each other, for staff, and for council. First public hearing is to consider increasing the lodging tax to a rate not to exceed 10% on the charge made to each room intended to transients. We will have a presentation by Town Manager Freeman prior to opening of the hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. And with the council's blessing, I think it would be beneficial to, we have a rather large audience, which actually pleases me. I think it'd be beneficial if I just went through the slides for the entire budget, because I think there's a lot of information in there and it's all connected. If with your blessing, I'll go ahead and give that presentation. There are slides that are specific to meals and lodging tax, which are the 2 public hearings. And I would ask the council on this portion, if you're don't mind me doing that, to hold questions that are not relative to meals and lodging until we get to the actual item on the budget. Does that sound reasonable to you all? If so, I'll kick it off. All right, welcome everyone. Before we get started, I want to thank Mike Stevens, our treasurer, who has been with us for about 40 years and knows all the ins and outs of the town's finances and helps me tremendously when it comes time to prepare for the budget. Always there to lend a helping hand, always there to answer my questions. I'd also like to thank the Budget and Finance Committee, who met nearly every week for probably the last 8 to 10 weeks for sometimes 4 or 5 hours. To get us where we are today. It's not as if we all sat in the room and agreed on every single thing and patted each other on the back when we left, but we worked hard to pull together a budget that I'm sure there will be lots of healthy discussion about. The proposed budget for fiscal year 2025 lays out the town of Wytheville's financial plan for providing the high-quality services that our residents, businesses, and visitors have come to expect. Proposed budget includes cautious revenue projections along with modest operational increases to prepare for the financial year ahead. The proposed budget also utilizes strategic use of reserves for needed capital expenditures without the high cost of borrowing. The budget also uses reserves for stabilization for what is anticipated to be a budget shortfall. Like all local governments, the town continues to contend with high inflation and general market unpredictability. Following inflation rates higher than 7% in calendar year 2022, the average 12-month inflation rate for our area was 3.2% for the calendar year of 2023, according to the Consumer Price Index, which is tracked and published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This continues to impact the cost of construction, equipment replacement, facilities maintenance, process chemicals, and nearly all operating costs that the town incurs. On the personnel side, the cost of attracting and retaining employees in the current labor market continues to rise steadily. And to that end, the proposed budget calls for a 3% cost of living increase for all full-time employees, along with a 1% year-end holiday bonus. Before and during the pandemic, we experienced an especially difficult time hiring and retaining police, fire, and EMS personnel. This is part of a national trend in which first responders left the profession in droves. I'm pleased to report that with market-adjusted salary increases last year, we're now at near full employment in all of our public safety departments and appear much better positioned to retain the highly competent staff in these areas. That said, we know we must continue to provide advanced training and growth opportunities. The proposed budget includes the addition of about $70,000 in career development opportunities for these personnel. We must continue to provide a compelling reason for these critical employees to choose Wytheville as more and more localities compete for a dwindling pool of employees. And we think this helps us with that. This budget also includes the addition of a full-time narcotics investigator. I feel strongly that it is important to our community that we dedicate resources to combating the distribution of narcotics, that we are not only deadly, but can erode the fabric of our community in many other ways. The budget also includes the creation of one new full-time position as the senior museum educator. This is a program that has operated part-time with part-time help for many years, but the search for a part-time replacement has not been successful, and it's been ongoing for 6 or 8 months. The town continues to remain competitive with fringe benefits, and this year is no different. In April, the town council voted unanimously to renew the employer-offered insurance plan with the local choice with a 10.5% premium increase. This increase added an estimated $150,000 to the 2024-25 budget. As far as capital, the town's capital improvements plan for 2024 includes $782,200 in new expenditures, as well as carryovers on ongoing projects. Highlighted within the general fund are the purchase of 2 new police vehicles at $105,000 total, the replacement of the auto shop roof at $105,000, renovations to McWayne Pool totaling $110,000, as well as the removal of the Withers Park bleachers at an estimated $32,000. Within the wastewater fund, there are also included a $450,000 carryover for the rebuild of Pump Station 6, which has failed several times over the last 18 to 24 months, as well as a $2 million sewer I&I project that includes $1.5 million in grant funding. The water fund includes $250,000 in water main improvements on Wesley Highway, as well as $20,000 for the replacement of failed hydrants throughout the system. There's also a new utility truck, which is beginning to fail, that's $60,000. Carryover projects include the Lots Gap Tank project at $1.5 million. This is a $6 million total project cost in partnership with Wythe County that also includes over $3 million in grant funding. Let's talk about expenditures by function. Let's go back a slide. This slide details the town's audited expenses and expenditure by function since 2011, 2012. So we've got over 10 years of data here. We'll go into a little bit more detail on the top 3. Up top is water and sewer, which is these are captured in their own funds. Got some things to report here. Over the last 12 years, the town's largest expenditure by function has been in water and sewer. This includes the treatment of drinking water and the necessary construction, maintenance, and repairs of the distribution system, including the storage tanks, distribution lines, meters, pumps, valves, etc., and the collection and treatment, the collection, treatment, and disposal of sanitary sewer or wastewater. These are critical human health and safety functions of our local government, and we have a great group of about 40 full-time and 10 part-time employees that work 7 days a week, including nights and holidays, to keep these systems operating. In our most recently audited year, we spent $6,980,000 in the water and sewer function. In the upcoming fiscal year, the budget proposes to spend about $10,980,000, or about $4 million more. Some of these projects I just highlighted for you total up to $4 million. That's the $1.5 million for the Lots Gap tank. That is $2 million for the sewer I&I project, and about $500,000 for the Pump Station 6 rebuild. The second highest expenditure by function and the highest within the general fund is public safety. Public safety includes police, fire, and emergency medical services, animal control, and the building official's office. Public safety has experienced significant growth over the last 5 years, going on 6, with the transition of the full-time fire and EMS staffing 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Consider, for example, that between 2011 and 2017, the town of Wytheville spent an average of $3,137,000 in public safety. In 2018, the amount increased by nearly $700,000 over the prior 6 years. This marks the beginning of the transition to the full-time paid fire and EMS department. In fiscal year 2020-21, the number increased significantly to $6,700,000. Much of this increase was attributed to the transition to full-time paid emergency medical services and the eventual creation of the combined Wytheville Fire and EMS department, with about 30 full-time dual-trained fire and EMS personnel. Fiscal year 2021 also included the infusion of CARES Act funds that were provided by the federal government and utilized to renovate the fire and EMS building, provide sleeping quarters for those personnel, and to some hazardous duty bonuses provided from CARES that were limited to only public safety personnel. The subsequent year expenditures came down significantly. The main reason for this was the decrease was that the CARES funds were expended by that point. And the town was also experiencing severe staffing shortages that led to significant vacancy savings. At one point in time, the town was down 6 of 28 uniformed police positions, and as many as 4 or 5 within the EMS department simultaneously. These are professions that have been in shortage nationally due to many leaving the profession altogether. We are fortunately back to full staffing in both departments. While some communities are defunding their public safety departments, the town of Wytheville is going in the opposite direction. I can speak with confidence when I say we have the personnel sincerely dedicated to protecting the community and saving lives around the clock. This function made up $6.28 million, or 23% of all expenditures in the 2022-23 budget, which was our last audited budget, and will make up about $6.99 million in the 24-25 budget. Until recently, Public Works was the second highest expenditure by function across all funds, but that was recently surpassed by Public Safety. Public Works is, however, the second largest expenditure by function within the general fund. Public Works includes about 50 full-time and a few part-time employees who play a critical role in the day-to-day service delivery being provided by the town. Public Works includes paving, sidewalk and street maintenance, right-of-way mowing and maintenance, snow and ice removal, brush collection and disposal. Also, the town, and many other functions, too many to name. It's also good to point out that the town owns 3 cemeteries, including West End Cemetery, East End Cemetery, and Oakwood Cemetery, and provides all the mowing, maintenance, and burial services for these locations. We also do solid waste collection and disposal, also known as refuse or garbage collection. We do sign installation and maintenance, traffic signal maintenance, and the building and grounds maintenance and custodial work for all the town's facilities. Let's talk about where money comes from. One way in which we pay for many services, the many services the town offers, is through general property taxes. General property taxes consist primarily of real estate, personal property, machine and tools, and public service tax, with public service tax, penalty and interest, and mobile home taxes making up smaller shares. General property taxes make up only about 10.4% of the total revenues needed to operate the town's general fund for fiscal year 24-25. I think we should repeat that. General property taxes make up only 10.4% of the total revenues needed to operate the town's general fund for fiscal year 24-25. Real estate makes up the largest portion of this category and is currently projected at $1,898,000 for the upcoming cycle, or about 8% of the general fund. All combined general property taxes make up $2.48 million, or about 12% of all projected general fund revenue for 24-25. Local taxes. Local taxes are very important to the town's annual revenue stream. These taxes actually make up 44% of the proposed budget for 24-25. This does not include, as far as this goes, this does not include any meals or lodging taxes because those hearings have yet to be held. Among these taxes are the state sales tax, the business license tax, the lodging tax, and the meals tax. Meals taxes are taxes on food prepared for human consumption, primarily by restaurants. The tax does not apply to food sold through vending machines or other foods sold in grocery stores or convenience stores that are not prepared. Meals make up the single largest revenue stream in the town of Wytheville, making up nearly 19% of the entire general fund. Lodging or transient occupancy tax is a tax charged on rooms or lodging rentals provided to individuals who stay fewer than 30 consecutive days. These taxes are paid by the guest and collected by the lodging establishment for monthly remittance to the locality. Lodging taxes have historically been a vital revenue stream for the town of Wytheville. The town's situation at the intersections of Interstate 81 and I-77, along with favorable topography and a low overall tax rate, combine to make Wytheville a very attractive location for the development of lodging establishments. Lodging taxes projected at the current 8% tax rate make up about 8.3% of the total general fund revenue stream. Combined, these taxes make up about 27% of the general fund. Taking a look at the published meals taxes across the region, we don't know who's looking at what for the upcoming year, so we're just using what we know that we can find through the various resources online. Meals taxes across the region has Bristol coming in at the highest rate at 10%. You've got Wytheville and Hillsville in there at 8%. Next would be Christiansburg at 7.5%, Pulaski at 7%, Marion at 7%, Abingdon at 7%, Bluefield, Virginia at 6.5%. Bluefield, West Virginia, we could find no data for. Salem at 6% and Roanoke at 5.5%. Lodging and taxes across the region. Bristol again coming in at 13% as the highest. Christiansburg and Salem coming in next at 9% as the next highest. Wytheville and Hillsville and Roanoke and Marion all at 8%. Blacksburg at 7%, Pulaski at 6%, Bluefield, West Virginia at 6%, and Bluefield, Virginia at 5%. Don't know if we mentioned Abingdon, but they were in there at 7%. This is a categorical aid is a revenue stream that I think may surprise a lot of people. Categorical aid is given to localities by the state in the form of grants to target specific programs and must be spent for those very narrowly defined purposes. I know that in my experience, we often see things on social media when there's an announcement that the town's received a grant, and understandably so, that people want us to spend it for this, that, and the other. But folks need to understand that these are narrowly defined programs that we receive these monies for, and there are guidelines on what it can be spent for and nothing else. By and large, most of Wytheville's categorical aid comes in the form of VDOT maintenance funds, which total about $3.5 million annually. Recall from our expenditures and our focus on expenditures by function that Public Works makes up about $5.4 million of the general fund, and 65% of that money comes from VDOT. So I'll say it again, $5.4 million spent on Public Works, and $3.5 million of that, or 65% of that, comes from VDOT, not from local funds. These funds are based on the number of lane miles of roadway maintained by the town. Other highlights in this budget revenue category include grants from Virginia Department of Transportation for the design of the Heritage Walk Museum Connector, an annual grant of $205,000 from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services to support law enforcement, $30,000, I think that's up to about $36,000, but I'll confirm, from the Virginia Department of Fire Programs to support our fire department, and $50,000 grant from Virginia Tourism Commission for marketing programs. Categorical aid makes up one of the largest portions of the town's revenue stream at about 16% of the entire general fund. Interest on reserves has become a very important category. If you look at the graph on the left, you can see that we were dwindling down and as interest rates were rather low and our reserves were dropping. Fast forward to 23, 24, interest rates are on the rise. The Federal Reserve is trying to tamp down the economy by raising interest rates and making it more difficult to access capital, making it more expensive to borrow, and therefore making it more advantageous to save. And maybe I'll get back to my script here. As we all know, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates in an effort to combat inflation. Higher interest rates theoretically increase the cost of capital, which discourages spending and encourages savings, thereby slowing the economy and bringing costs back down. High costs have been detrimental to nearly every consumer, including the town, but we've tried to take advantage of the higher interest rates in the best ways we can. That is that last year we did a little bit of borrowing. This year we don't plan to do any borrowing. We're trying to hang on to those reserves with all we can because, as you can see, we doubled and actually anticipate tripling the interest on reserves. We went from $218,716 in actual audited figures for 22-23 up to a budgeted number of $565 for the current year. I believe we've already eclipsed that. And we are projecting $700,000 in interest on reserves for the next year. So that is a $500,000 windfall from hanging on to our money. And that really helps us keep the need for seeking additional revenues down as much as possible. That said, the Federal Reserve has indicated that they are targeting a core inflation rate of 2%. And right now in March, we were still above 3.8. Contrast that with 1 year ago, and core inflation was still at 5.5% at this time. Core inflation measures the price of goods and services, excluding energy and food sectors, because these are too volatile and they fluctuate too wildly for them to be included. And this uses both the CPI and the PCE, which are just indexes that the Bureau of Labor Statistics uses to measure the cost of goods. Interest on reserves is not a huge part of our budget, but it is expected to provide a significant revenue this year. The current budget figure appears to be on pace to eclipse the $565,000 projection, and we're projecting $700,000 for fiscal year 24-25. Now, I've said a lot. There are other things we can talk about, but I think that might be a good primer for your public hearings, and I'm obviously available to answer any questions I can when the time comes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brandon.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing to consider increase in the lodging tax to a rate not to exceed 10% on the charge made to each room rented to transit. So this is now open. If there's anybody here that wishes to talk on this subject, please let us know, but nobody has signed up for that. So while we're thinking, we do have one particular person had asked me to read some of their issues under the open session here.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Someone asked you to read something?
They submitted a letter to be read.
They sent a letter
into the
with
record.
instructions to be read during the
Can you state their name and their address, please?
whatever I have on here. So this is actually from Mr. William Smith. I do not have an address. I submit this on behalf of my family, the Bowling Wilson Hotel and Graves on Main restaurant, and request this be read aloud during the public comment period of the public hearing, section 5 p.m. Monday, April 22, 2024. We oppose proposed increases to the local lodging tax and meals tax and call the reduction of both from current levels. Well, taxes are regressive, they burden on the town citizens, travel, public, and support, very important to tourism industry. These taxes have created a financial dependency on volatile revenue sources, which is detrimental to the town of Wytheville's financial stability. Further called at the immediate session, a further discussion regarding the increase in both the meals tax and lodge tax at such time following contractions of investigation. Not sure what that means. The rest of this, these are with the clerks, but there's a lot of just words with blank, 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 and dot, dot, dot. So not sure what they mean. I read the first part, and anybody's interested in that, it will be in the clerk's office. All right, so again, hearing none, we are going to go ahead and close this public hearing. And at this point, we're consideration by the town council to adopt ordinance number 1431, an ordinance amending and reenacting chapter 14, taxation, article 6, lodging tax, section 14-103, amount of levy of the code of the town of Wytheville. And I am going to turn this over to the Budget and Finance Committee, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Lodging tax, this is the committee report. Transient occupancy tax, also known as lodging tax, is a tax charged on rooms or lodging rentals provided to individuals who stay fewer than 30 consecutive days. These taxes are paid by the guest and collected by the lodging establishment for monthly remittance to the locality. Lodging taxes are an important source of revenue for the town of Wytheville and help offset the need for other local taxes, such as real estate and personal property taxes. These taxes provide financial support for general town operations, including, but not limited to, our many marketing, tourism, and economic development programs, as well as the town's police, fire, and EMS departments. Continued inflationary forces have led to the cost increase in all facets of government operations and are contributing to an anticipated budget deficit for fiscal year 2024 through 2025. In order to maintain the high level of service our citizens and visitors have come to expect, the town will need to generate new revenues for the coming budget year. It is the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee that the transient occupancy tax be increased from 8% to 10% with an effective date of July 1, 2024.
Thank you. We have a recommendation coming from a committee, which needs no second. Do we have any discussion amongst council? I hear none. This is on the first and final reading. We are now going to put this to a vote. It's going to be a roll call vote, and we're going to start with Councilwoman Johnson.
Johnson. Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Gilman, aye.
I seem to have it, and that has passed. Next on the agenda is a public hearing to consider increase in meals tax to a rate not to exceed 9% on every meal served, sold, or delivered in the town restaurant of caterer. Before we open up this meeting, I'm going to turn this over to the Budget and Finance, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Meals tax, committee report. Meals taxes are taxes on food prepared for human consumption, restaurants, eateries, food trucks, etc. This tax does not apply to food sold through vending machines or other food sold in grocery or convenience stores that are not prepared. Meals taxes are paid by the patron and collected by the businesses for monthly remittance to the locality. Meals taxes are an important source of revenue for the town of Wytheville and help offset the need for other local taxes such as real estate and personal property tax. Meals taxes provide financial support for general town operations, as well as many marketing, tourism, and economic development programs in the town's robust public safety department. After consideration of all factors, including the recency with which the meals tax was last increased, it is the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee that the meals tax remain at 8% and for the town council to reconsider this topic later in 2025.
Right. Thank you, Vice Mayor. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open up the public hearing to consider increasing the meals. We do have, which we've already have our report from our committee, but we do have two people that signed up to speak towards this. And first one will be Mr. Davis. Would you still want to come to the podium?
Okay, I appreciate the opportunity.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Art Davis, 515 East Pine Street, Wytheville. Appreciate the opportunity to come in. I wish you would send letters to the restaurants and the motels and let them know, because they do not know for the most part. The best argument I can say against a no meals increase is the tithing of the Christian church. For 2,000 years, guess what it is? 10%. They've never increased it. They actually only get about 3%, and they manage. I ran and operated a Grayson restaurant. And 20 years ago, if a cup of coffee was 50 cents and you had your 8%, that would be 4 cents. Jesus would have got 5 cents. I bought a cup of coffee at McDonald's, large, $2.70 last week to go. The tax was 35 cents. I think the town got over 20 cents. 5 times what it was 20 years ago, just because of inflation. And that's how the tie system works. For over 2,000 years, it's worked that way. I think you don't realize, but a lot of people in town, this is kind of a blue-collar town. And a lot of the older people, where they lose their wife, they have to eat out. They can't eat good unless they eat out. And this is a burden on the poor people. This is a regressive tax. The poor people pay the same amount as somebody that's a millionaire. And in my opinion, that's wrong. It's double taxation in the sense that you have inflation. They've got to pay more for the product. Look at food prices. It went up like crazy, you know. So I went to, probably about a year and a half ago, I was down at Cracker Barrel. There's a man out there who's taking his family to Myrtle Beach and is wanting to see the manager. And so they got the manager, and I hung around just to listen to this. And here's what he said. He said, I've got a family of 5. We just ate $68. I give a $10 tip, and I get to the register and find I've got to pay another big hunk of money. And he was very upset. And his last words was, I'll never stop here again. I went to the Cracker Barrel manager this weekend. I said, what's it like with this meals tax? He didn't know about an increase. He said, we get a lot of complaints. And I know the town's trying to put this burden on travelers, but it affects local people, not us. Probably not too many people in here are affected, but poor people are affected. And I think the inflation should be taking care of the town pretty good. I know your costs are going up, but you're getting more tax money because, let's say somebody bought a house 50 years ago, an old couple, and their costs have went up over the years. The house could still be kind of run down, but the assessments come out and their values go up. They pay more insurance, more taxes, so they get hurt. I've got a good friend that lost his wife. They owned the house. She worked. He lost his house. He's living in a basement. He's eating a hot dog every day from IGA, eating a little cereal in the morning, trying to make it. So I don't think you need to raise that tax. I swear, I don't think you need to raise it. Thank you for the opportunity. I love this town. This is a great town, and I appreciate all of you working hard for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas.
I will comment that the hoteliers are they know that this meeting was going on. They were reached out to, and so they know this meeting was going on. Just want to make that straight. I would say anybody else? Let's say Colleen O'Donnell?
Yes.
Sir. State name and address for minutes, please.
Colin O'Donnell, 155 East Main Street, The Grind. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to share some information with you guys. You said in the beginning, we're all neighbors, and you asked for the utmost respect, and I agree with that entirely. I don't think that there's a level of ignorance necessarily. I just think that from the business side of things, having owned a coffee shop myself, I feel like we look at it a little bit differently, and maybe it might be seen from you all from the financial side, but I'm looking at it from the tourism side. So I wanted to name a few cities here: New York City, Los Angeles, Houston, Philadelphia, San Antonio, San Diego, Dallas, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, San Francisco, Austin, Columbus, Fort Worth, Louisville, Charlotte, Detroit, and El Paso will all have an effective meals tax rate up to 5% lower than Wytheville if this passes, which is pretty crazy. Some of those places are some of the most expensive in the world, and I don't believe they spend their money any better than you all spend the money here. The goal of government in an efficient world is to utilize the growth of the immediate local economy as a stepping stone for revenue growth. In an efficient world, your local economic growth will correlate with local government revenue growth. Cheating the system by continually raising taxes, nonetheless, taxes on specific local industries, in order to attempt to bring in more revenue without first making an effort to become significantly more efficient in spending and attracting natural economic growth, simply creates the opportunity for competition elsewhere. Currently, data from The Grind shows 32% less tourism traffic. This is people outside the town that are coming in from other localities. 32% less tourism traffic coming through downtown versus last year, the same period, January 1 to April 15th. So make no mistake, this tax is not targeting wealthy tourists. It's targeting the local college student coming by to grab a coffee to study, or the mom and dad who work 60 hours a week and has to stop by McDonald's to grab a bite for their babies because they're too exhausted to cook. And it's the elderly couple who go to Grayson's every Saturday for their breakfast meal together. It is also a deeply profitable move for conglomerate shopping centers like Walmart, who can sell their groceries under a completely different tax, which is much less, raise the prices of their goods, and still be more competitive than local restaurants. I think it's easy to settle on raising the meals tax and not think about the rest of the variables involved, but I did want to list them for you so you can get the full picture. The average consumer is currently paying 8% local meals tax, 5.3% state tax, 4.85% average effective credit card fee if that is how they choose to pay. And if they're generous enough in this economy to leave a tip after all that's said and done, the average person is still kind enough to leave an average of 12.5%, which is down 10% over last year's numbers, presumably due to the 40% higher cost of food and disposables over the past 3 years. Last year, The Grind paid $27,000 in credit card usage fees. It's time to stop penalizing local businesses over our desire to raise additional revenue. If we are truly in a position where we cannot navigate additional options to accomplish the goal of raising additional revenue, then we need to come up with a different solution, because although it seems comical to say out loud before you know it, 30 years will have passed and we'll have a 75% local meals tax rate. I know it's comical to consider now, but where does the consideration for continually raising these taxes actually come to an end? According to the history of government, it doesn't really ever end. We have the opportunity to set a positive example for the next generation of leaders, that we do not simply take the easy way out and demand more from people every time we seek to accomplish a goal, but that we do our own due diligence and seek to make government more efficient, less bloated, competitively attract economic growth, and utilize the fruits of that labor to effectively operate our local government and add additional revenue, or take it away at the same rate at which we attract or lose local businesses. In my opinion, the current path we are on regarding the constant nickel and diming of the local restaurant and lodging industry is a losing strategy, that we will only see true investors and entrepreneurs less likely to view Wytheville as highly competitive, especially considering all the variables involved with choosing to open a business here versus elsewhere. I would ask council today to keep Wytheville competitive and strike down these additional tax increases. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And that's all that I see that signed up for the public hearing for the meals tax. So I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing. And I will resort back to the committee report that we just heard. And it's a recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee that the meals tax rate remain at 8%, and for the town council to reconsider this topic later in 2024.
Mayor Taylor, I think they amended that to 2025. The committee report amended it to 25.
Apologize. This is coming from a committee which needs no second. It's on the first and final reading. Is there any dialogue or questions for council? All right, this will be a roll call vote. And we'll start with Mr. Gilman.
Gilman, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson,
Has it. Just to pay due respect to Mr. Patel, who came in a little late for the other hearing. So for Mr. Patel from the committee, it was recommended that the occupancy increase go from 8% to 10%, and that's already been voted on. Appreciate you coming in. Next on the agenda is public hearing to consider the town of Wytheville master fee schedule for fiscal year 2024-25. That includes increases to water and sewer rates. We have the staff report by Assistant Manager Lane Holton, please.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present the fiscal year 24-25 master fee schedule. The proposed master fee and rate schedule presents the user fees and charges collected on behalf of the 12 town departments. The fees cover everything from recreation pass plans to building permits. In addition to fees for services, the rate schedule lists the water rates, sewer rates, and utility connection fees for the town. I'm just going to briefly go over the review process. In December of each year, the department heads will submit proposed fee changes for the town council to consider as part of the budget planning process. And the Budget and Finance Committee reviewed the changes and provided input to prepare the first draft. The first draft of this fee schedule was shared with the town council at the April 8th meeting. Since April 8th, a request was made to increase the water and sewer deposit fee from $100 to $150. A request was made to increase various police department fines for illegal parking and related charges. The Homestead Advisory Board requested a new flat rental rate for use of the homestead property, and a modest increase for public works related mowing and trimming was included in this draft. After this presentation on the fee schedule, you will host a public hearing to receive public input, and after the public hearing, you will consider approving the proposed master fee and rate schedule with the highlighted changes as shown in your packet. Should you adopt the new master fee and rate schedule tonight, the changes will become effective on July the 1st, 2024. And if you have any questions, I am available to answer those, as is Mr. Freeman. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, I am going to go ahead and open up a public hearing to consider the town of Wytheville's master fee schedule for fiscal year 2024-25. That includes increases to water and sewer rates. I don't think anybody has signed up to speak to this. Is there anybody public hearing for this particular? Yes. Please come to the podium, state your name and
Hi, I'm Glenda Crocodines, 50 Lee Circle. Is there any way, I know you gave a breakdown of certain entities, I guess you could say, that would be increased, like the recreation. Can we get numbers on those from,
Okay, so
I can share my back.
okay, that'll be fine. I can go department by department and summarize if you would like. Essentially, the Parks and Recreation fees, there was no increase proposed for this year. There was proposed change for the utility rates. So there will be $1 added to the base rate for both public water and public sewer, and modest increases for each tier of rate users. There was also changes to the connection fees, increases to the connection fees for both water and sewer utilities proposed as part of the master fee schedule. There were no changes to the wastewater pretreatment surcharges this year. Again, there was a very modest increase of $25 for public works costs for trimming and mowing when they are asked to do those for private property. There were no changes to planning and zoning fees. There were no changes to the cemetery fees. There were some increases to the police department fees for things such as illegal parking, various fines for that. Museum, the only change to the museum schedule of fees is there was a proposed flat rate for use of the homestead property.
and what is that?
So that went from before that was based on hours of the day that the property would be used, and it went to one flat rate of $1,000 for use of the homestead property. That was a recommendation of the Homestead Advisory Board, and I think the intent of that was to attract more events such as weddings and things of that nature to try to recuperate funds for that department. The meeting center, there were no changes proposed for this fiscal year. Building department, the only fees that were proposed was plan review, and it was just a rewording of how they charge those fees. It's essentially went to $25 an hour for plan review for building department. In engineering department, the only change was a subdivision variation request fee, which was not included in last year's master fee schedule. So that is just to capture the cost of that type of application. The administrative fees, the only change was the town code violation for excessive vegetation. Essentially, it was always this way, but now it is listed in the master fee schedule. The fee is the actual cost incurred by the mowing contractor to cut the vegetation plus a $50 civil penalty. And then for EMS and fire department, these changes reflect some changes to the town code that occurred earlier this year to recapture the actual cost to replace materials and supplies for hazardous materials incidents that our fire and EMS assist with, in addition to personnel costs for hazardous materials and for fire apparatus, an hourly rate of $100 per hour when they are requested for special needs. And that is a quick summary of all the changes. Okay, thank you.
All right, we're still in a open session. Is there anybody else that nobody else has signed up? Once again, I have a letter here that I will read at least the first portion of it, and it is scheduled. It is with the clerks as well. It is from again William Smith, date April 21, 2024. Public hearing comments. 2024-25 master fee schedule. I submit this on behalf of my family, Professional Building LLC, the Bowling Wilson Hotel, Graves on Main Restaurant. We request that this be read aloud during the public hearing period to the public hearing scheduled at 5 p.m. Monday, April 22nd, 2024. We oppose increases in 2024-25 master fee schedule as proposed. These increases are second to in 2 years, clearly represent a dependency by the town Wytheville in raising fees and taxes and balance expenditures driven budgets deficits rather than addressing the root problem of the overspending. Again, that is just half of this, and you can get a copy of that from the clerk. Is there anybody else that's would like to speak in this open meeting? Right, if not, we recommend that be closed. And we have a consideration by town council to adopt the town of Wytheville's master fee schedule for fiscal year 2024-25. That includes increases to water and sewer rates. I will need a motion.
So moved.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, this is a roll call vote. We'll start with Councilwoman Johnson.
Johnson.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Carlson, aye.
Gilman, aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda is consider ordinance number 1433, the budget ordinance for fiscal year 24-25 on first reading. Staff report, Mr. Freeman.
Mayor Taylor, I think most of the same people are in the room that heard the presentation earlier. Was there anybody that missed the opening presentation just now for everyone hold the key? If there is, I'll be happy to go through it again. It may put you to sleep, or I can just pull up this last slide and answer any questions that anyone who heard that presentation or the council may have. I will note that to everyone, and Mr. Castle, I'll put you on the spot to correct me if I'm wrong. I've been referring to this as a perfunctory reading, meaning it is a functional reading. And what that means is that it's statutorily required. But even if this council votes 5-0 to reject this reading, we will still have a second reading. We will have that second reading in a public hearing in this room in 3 weeks. Even if they vote 5-0 to reject that budget, we will still have a third budget. And it is the third budget that sticks. In my mind, this is the time when the council sees sort of the unveiling of the budget, and then it puts us back to work to maybe hone a little more, craft a little more, to work a little more, and to sort out maybe some of our differences. So I'll kind of leave it at that. And if you all have any questions, I'm happy to help.
Thank you. I think before we go ahead and vote on this, there is someone who wanted to speak, Mr. Josh Sexton, as far as to the town budget. So is that person still here? Oh, is that him? All right. All right, then thank you. So at this point, for council, we need a motion to approve ordinance number 1433, the budget ordinance of fiscal year 24-25 on first but not yet final reading.
So moved.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I do have a couple of questions. Mayor Taylor, Mr. Freeman, I noticed that, and I know that you did get back with me on some questions that I had. The one question I had, I would like to see if we could leave the town attorney in there. I was under the understanding we were just going to leave that job open. So I would like to see that remained in there. Not that Mr. Castle's not doing an excellent job, but I'm just scared to see that just go. And also the other question I had was, if you can go down the summary of, and I hate to ask this, but the town council budget there, I know that you gave me the breakdown.
Yes.
Do you mind to go over that?
Sure. So when I mentioned earlier that there's a 3% cost of living increase, there's also a 1% holiday bonus that historically the town council has given. I think the last 3 years they've done that, at least the last 3 years, and probably historically longer than that. Typically speaking, that 1% was, do you mind if I address it to everyone?
Oh, no, that's right.
So
Yes,
typically
sir.
that 1% is spread across all of payroll, meaning Chief Hash's department would get a 1% increase in their regular salaries. My department would get a 1% increase in regular salaries. Elaine's would, Sherry's would. Every department would get that 1% increase. The reason we put this 1% in the council budget is because one of the things I initiated 3 years ago was computing that bonus as 1% of total payroll, but giving that bonus as a flat rate so that I don't get the biggest Christmas bonus and the custodian gets the small. So rather than putting it in all those departmental budgets, which would skew it toward me and away from them, we just put it into the council budget as a 1% of total payroll number. So it's a placeholder for right now to level the playing field with the bonuses. So that is one of those. There's anticipated, there's some retiree anticipation in the coming year. Our employees are entitled to a certain percentage of their vacation and sick leave. We've got sort of the baby boomer generation is now kind of signaling to us that some of them are leaving in the coming year. So we have to add some money to the council budget to pay out those employees. Again, it's rather than putting it in the departmental budget for the department in which we anticipate those employees leaving and blowing their budget up, it just goes in the council budget as a catch-all. There's also the next phases or the remaining phase of the human resources and financial software switchover. Next year, that number will drop down. There's also a Veterans Banner program we're hoping to initiate this year that we'll tell the council a little bit more about, but it also has a matching revenue stream that is identical to the expenditure. Historically, we've not budgeted for the parade and other, I'll say, year-end holiday activities. We've paid for them, but not necessarily budgeted for them, and so we stuck some money in there for that. So that is your main differences in the council increase.
Thank you. I just didn't want people to think council got that much.
No, they did not.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any other questions or concerns from council?
I just wanted to ask about the attorney. Are we going to try to leave that in there?
I think that's up to you all. So far, that search has been pretty fruitless. I think it's one of those things that we're trying to take it out because we're trying to figure out ways to be efficient. I think the system right now is working. It's up to you all. If it's something you all want me to place on a future agenda for consideration, a thumb up, thumb down to put it in, that's totally up to you all. I can put it back in.
I personally would like to see that left in there. Like I said, not that Mr. Castle's not doing an excellent job. He may win the lottery and then we're going to be in trouble.
I hope he does, but I don't want to lose it.
If he does, I hope he remembers me. But anyway, I would like to see that amount left in there. I'm just scared to see that gone.
I would like for it to be left in there in the event that something happens, something goes on, and it is already accounted for.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
So I've got 3 there. That's good enough for me. I'll put it back in.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Gilman?
Anderson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson.
So I have it. Before we go on to, again, to consider requests of community contributions, we just had somebody come in, and I just hate for them to sit there thinking that we had forgotten about them. But Mr. Patel, I think you're here for, it says the taxes, but is it hotel per se, or?
Hotels per se, but we thought it was at 6 o'clock, the paper was not here on time on speed. So the paper just had that's all it had. It didn't have like the specific time of his hearing. Obviously, I'm in the hotel business, obviously. I had a few other things. I know you all passed it, my brother was just outside, so yeah. But
You have some other questions. Would you like to come up to the podium and state your name and address so we can get you in there for the record, please, sir?
yeah. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my name's CJ Patel. We have 4 properties in this town. My brother has 1, so we have several properties in this town. About the taxes, well, I'll just start with 2 things. They're at my sleep in over here on Peppers Ferry, where we're doing the road work, or the town, or VDOT. Can anybody put any lights? We can't even see our hotel at night when you're coming past from Super 8 to my property. I almost got hit yesterday, and that's me traveling every day.
Have they turned out taking out the lights during the.
Lights have been gone for 3 months now. So we're doing good business. It's okay, but all of our customers are complaining. And if somebody gets hurt or killed, that's going to be on Wythe County, not on me. So I'm just, that looks bad right there. I don't know if you all travel that road at night or not, but
CJ, you said Peppers Ferry.
Yes, sir. It's Peppers Ferry. After you take that nice circle and you go back on Peppers Ferry, right there.
We'll absolutely take a look at that. Just for clarity, so the town pays a fee to AEP to maintain those. If we know about it, we'll put in the work orders.
Okay.
Not an issue whatsoever. So
Okay, because I put one light on my property just to put it between my property and Super 8. Okay. So that looks, but this is at that.
But it sounds to me like there's
intersection.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like there's poles, but the lights are just not working. Is that correct?
So I think they turned them off because they turned my 2 pole lights off as well. Okay. But you cannot see anything at night. Okay. And the same thing goes for my Comfort Inn on Holston as you're coming up the road. When you go back where the gas station is, that hop in, right there before you take that main for the Walmart road, right there it's totally dark too at night. I don't know if anybody else travels at night there or not, but you can't see anything going this way. So it's at the 4-lane right there at the junction. So my Comfort Inn's here, hop in's here, then you can take the left or right. So those 2 things are a concern of mine. And then the taxes, this was in the paper last week, or?
Public hearing was scheduled on the 8th and advertised. I don't know the exact date, but I'm looking at you, Sherry, but I just don't know what the dates are.
Yeah, I don't know the exact dates, but it met the advertising guidelines.
So why can't they send us letters or something besides just being in the paper? Just out of curiosity, like there's 28 hotels in this town. I think we talked a few years ago. Peter just raised a concern in Bristol. They did the same thing. And I just checked everything the other day, which I know Wytheville's 8, State is 5, Carroll County is the same, Galex is the same, Marion's the same, Christiansburg's 9%, so it's 14.3, Bristol's 18.3, Salem is 13.3, Roanoke is 13.3. Roanoke has 100,000 people. They have an airport. We have 8,085. This is what I checked on Google last night. The only way we are going to survive is because of these 2 interstates. That's obvious. If we don't have 2 interstates, we have no town. You have no hotels in this town. We're not here either. And also, where are the restaurants in this town? There's no restaurants. Our guests are complaining every day. There's no Chick-fil-A. There's no Outback. There's no Olive Garden. Who cares about Applebee's, Ruby Tuesday? We know that's there. But what about these other stuff? They can go to Christiansburg and you can do other stuff there. They can go to Princeton. You go to Princeton, it's like Disneyland exit. You go to Beckley, it's the same thing. I know you all travel. I mean, the taxes you passed, fine. We don't like it, but, nothing we can do. But why does the town pick on hotels and they pick on restaurants? Is that the only thing? If you have a shortfall, I get it. So do I. We're paying our employees $15 to $18 an hour to sit. I just caught one of my employees sleeping on second shift today. Second shift at 3 p.m. in the back because she was tired. $16 an hour. I mean, what are we supposed to do? So when you all keep increasing this, what are we supposed to do? Do you know recently that six hotels have sold in our town within the last year? My brother sold his. I have 4. They're all on the market because, you obviously can't find help. We know that. But then on top of this, we got to call all the third parties. We have to call Expedia. We got to call Orbitz, Priceline. We got to change all this. We got to change it in the website. Our employees got to hear all this stuff. I mean, how can you just pass it just like that and just be done with it? How can we do that? I know you can do it, but how and why?
Well, I'll just address the one you mentioned before. I personally reached out to Nick Patel.
You didn't reach out to me. You reached out to my brother, but not me.
I did, but
we're 2 different people.
With the thing, would you please spread the word. He said, I'm very much aware of it, and I will. We did it the first time, and 5, 6, 8 people came out. And so this time,
Do you know when he spread the word to me? Yesterday at 7 p.m.
I apologize about that one.
I understand that, but he's not the only Patel in town. He's not the only one that owns hotel. He owns one. So he sold all of his hotels. I have not. I just bought another one. I bought the Comfort Suites that we built back in 2006. So I have 4. I have one in Carroll County. I have one in Galax. And I'm also looking at 2 more. But, you have to let us know this stuff. You can't let one person know. You have to let all of us know. We should have got a letter. Every one of us should have got a letter. Even the restaurant should have got a letter, because they do that. They do that in Bristol. They do that in other counties. So why can't we do that here in Wytheville?
Well, going forward, we certainly can.
But going forward, you've already raised it 2%.
Well, I understand that,
Beth,
it's not. We did what we were supposed to do as far as advertisement. And I'm sorry if you feel like it was a short, call.
But it was. You just advertised a week ago, right? I guess.
If I may just address a couple of the questions. I think if we're being honest with ourselves, and I am not speaking for the council, okay? I'm speaking for myself. These are my observations.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, we have financial challenges, and we have to get honest with ourselves about being more efficient in some areas. I 100% agree with that.
Right.
Again, I am not speaking for any of these folks. They can speak for themselves. I do think it is very appealing to have a town of this size that draws in meals and lodging taxes like it does, because it does allow the town to keep the real estate, the personal property taxes lower than all these people. I mean, lower than any of the communities you named. I guarantee you, we're right there with them or lower.
Right.
On real estate and personal property. And I'm not speaking for these folks, but I do think that there is that is a very important thing to many local government officials, to keep those types of taxes as low as you possibly can. And I understand that it does end up shifting it to you all, and it does end up shifting it to the traveler. But I just want to be honest with you, and you know that, but I want it to acknowledge it and be frank with you, and that's where.
Right. So if you did pass the taxes, fine. I get that. But what are we going to do about restaurants? What are we going to do about other stuff in this town? Why can't we clean up the roads on Peppers Ferry where all of our properties are? I mean, I feel like taking my dustpan and broom and sweeping up all the cigarettes every day.
And I think we've talked about that.
Yes, we
that
have.
is in what we call the limited access area. It's controlled by VDOT. We don't have the authority to maintain that.
But somebody can say to them that something can be done to beautify.
We absolutely can. I agree.
I mean, if you guys advertise it Wytheville
and the business owners definitely cause a little bit more clout than sometimes we do, and asking them to clean.
But I think you should personally get our cell phone.
We can do that. I will commit to you that we will send correspondence to VDOT to ask them to please perform some maintenance.
Right, and
we can absolutely ask for
I
that.
do have something I'd like to say. Wasn't it maybe advertised on the town website too? The increase.
But everybody doesn't go on a town website.
And also, I do want to speak. I'm just going to speak for myself, but whether or not whatever type of restaurant we have, whether it be Applebee's and different ones, whether they're corporate or small business, I think everyone matters. Everyone.
No.
As well as your hotel does.
No. It does, but thing is, why can we get an Olive Garden down the road 42 minutes away? We can't get one. Why do they allow a Comfort Inn here and 20 minutes down the road? So why?
I would love to see an Olive Garden too and a Chick-fil-A.
Anything, but the town can promote that, right?
And has paid for Retail Coach and others to promote the town for that. We don't really control that. And we've got, and I will say, I don't think Spraker's here, but the building official's office is receiving plans and inquiries for 2 restaurants right now that are national chains.
Okay.
They're not Olive Garden. They're not Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
We all know Chick-fil-A is very selective in their markets and probably has the next 15 years planned out for where they will and will not go.
A business owner just went through the process to try to obtain a Chick-fil-A franchise here, and they allow them to go through so many steps, and then when they get to a certain step, they say that they're not interested.
Not right.
So there are people who are trying to bring things here. They just hit bumps in the road, And, but there are people who are trying, and I commend those people who are trying.
Yeah, and also back in the day, Carroll County used to put our logos up. I think we used to do that here. There's plenty of billboards that somebody could put 5 or 6 of ours on it. The other properties, other restaurants, things like that, just to do that. And also the biggest one too is these lights. I think I talked about this last time as well, and nothing's been done. On Pepper's Ferry, Sleep In, Comfort. It just looks dark as in dark, like we're not open. Super 8's not open. Super 8 you can see because it's right there, but then secondary is me. So I mean,
isn't that a private road?
No, your road is not private. Your road is right there. This road is private.
Okay, you're talking about
where are you doing the nice
East Main
circle?
Street?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The Pepper's Ferry Road.
Okay.
That road right there. So if you get to the 4-lane right there, what I call the 4-lane, then you see Blue Fuel 77 right there.
Okay.
And then same thing on Holston, where you cross to go to what's that industry next door to us on that road.
Patel, we certainly will try harder. And we
Yeah.
appreciate your comments and everything, and help us out too.
And also, I think you need to keep all of us involved, not just one. I don't like that at all. When you said that,
Well,
I don't agree with it. And I'll go outside and I'll tell him off myself, but that's not right. He doesn't own this town. We're all here. Okay? So that's not right on your part. You may be friends with him or whatnot, but that's not right. So you should think about that, Beth.
And moving forward, consideration by town council to approve or disapprove the following community contribution requests. And we will take them as they are listed here. And so the first one is Brain Injury Solutions. They have been getting these contributions from the town for quite some time, and they usually request $500, and that's the same request they had today. So I need a motion to get this started.
So moved.
I have a motion for them for the $500 request. I said 5,000 before. I think it's 500. A motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any dialogue? Right, hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Sorry, everything's roll call tonight. So this will be a roll call vote, and they all will be a roll call vote. So I'll start with you, Mr. Gilman.
Gilman, aye.
Ferguson,
Taylor, aye.
Atkins,
No, it's not.
Next on the list is the Wytheville Training School Culture Center. And their request is for $4,500, a little bit of increase from last year, which was $3,500. So do I have a motion?
Mayor Tyler, before we make a motion,
Mhm.
can we discuss all of these at one time? Because I would like to, due to the nature of some of the requests, I would like to have other considerations for the requests that we have at hand.
I mean, I think we're doing them.
I understand how
one, so
you're
that-
doing them, but I would like for us to have some dialogue on all of these at one time, please. Because I would like, due to the nature of some of these requests,
So we
They
can't,
need to
you don't
be
want
looked
separate,
at.
you don't want separate dialogue is what I'm hearing.
huh?
You don't want separate
No,
dialogue.
I do not. I want to have a dialogue on all of them.
is it a possibility we could have a dialogue on all of them and then bring them out separately? Is that possible, Mr. Castle?
Yes,
Is that good?
it's up to council.
That's fine.
Is that good with you all, everybody? Mayor Taylor?
I was looking at this end.
Yeah.
All right, so at this point, we'll just open it up for whatever discussion you have in mind. And before we go through them,
All right, so looking at the request, we have the Wytheville Training School and Cultural Center. They're requesting $4,500. The Edithville and Wilson is requesting $10,000. The With Grayson Regional Library is requesting $3,675. Hope Open Door Community is requesting $50,000. And the Millwall Theater is requesting, if I am correct, $200,000. So we need to have some discussion on these. There are some substantial amounts that we need to have a discussion on.
well, sure, and that's why what we thought it'd be easier one by one, and we could address that each one by one. But go ahead.
Well, me personally, I would like to see the Wytheville Training School, the Edithville and Wilson, Hope Ministries receive at least $10,000. The Public Library, $4,000, and the Millwall Theater, $50,000. The Wytheville Training School and Cultural Center, Edithville and Wilson, Hope Open Door Community, $10,000 each. The Public Library, $4,000, and the Millwall Theater, $50,000. And I know that we approved $500 for the brain injury clinic already. I don't know if we can amend that to where they can receive $1,000.
So, you want us to vote in this in one cluster?
I'm just putting it out there. That's something that I would like, that's what I'm comfortable with. There were substantial amounts that I'm not comfortable with, but I do want to support each person that made a request.
Okay, so I'm not sure if it's going to be fair doing it one by one, but if we're in the middle of discussion, I'm going to say at this point that, you have your things, but I have my things, and there are some that I might not even support at all. And there are some that I definitely would not support some of the higher rates because we support them, but other people support them as well. And their doors have been able to stayed open. And
Well, what are your things? Go ahead, let's talk about it.
talk about what?
What are your things? You said I have my things, you have your things, so what?
Well, until we
some of
vote,
your
I'm
things?
not going to say who I'm voting for or not voting for. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
I think, and I could be wrong, I think we're just maybe having a discussion.
Right.
And I just didn't know. I'll be more than glad to share my thoughts as well. I'm sort of right there about the $10,000 for the three. The library I would like to see come up as well. I will be honest with you, I did have a tour of the Millwall. I do think it's great and everything like that. Fully support it. When I did have a tour, I think that the number that was given to me was $150,000, and I could be wrong. That they were going to ask for. I was a little surprised to see the $200,000. Not that it's not a great facility at all whatsoever, but I just have a hard pill to swallow the $200,000 as myself for the community.
Other thing we just need to remember as a council too, it's not that we don't want to increase some of these entities with their requests or going way above their requests. If they request this much, why not just give them that much but bring the other ones that are a little bit too high down to that threshold. And as I said, you got to remember now, all those things that we added on all last year in the budget that wasn't in the budget, and now we're worrying about being, too low in the budget. I think we just need to tail back a little bit. I think these entities out here are just really thanking you for wanting to give them that much money, but I just don't think it's something that we should just double and triple what we give them. I mean, a lot of them have put in here with the request. They put in there with the inflation, and most of them seem quite reasonable, but some of them don't, in my opinion.
Some of them sow back into the community quite a bit.
Sure. No doubt about it.
Well, I'm in agreement partially with Ms. Johnson. Wytheville Training Center, they're asking for $4,500. I think $10,000 is reasonable. Edith Bowling Wilson, they asked for $10,000. I think that's a reasonable figure. There are 4 Edith Bowling Wilson museums in the United States. We are the most popular of the 4. More people come to this museum than the other 3 because this is the birthplace of Ms. Wilson. They want to see this. So the Edith Bowling Wilson brings in people from all over the United States and from out of town, out of country. And they're bringing people to come and eat and sleep. So when they ask for $10,000, I think they should be granted $10,000. The library, $4,000. Open Door, $10,000. And the mill wall. I want to talk a little bit about the mill wall. It's not unusual for local governments to finance theaters or venues like that. And the mill wall serves as a cultural and social center for our historic downtown Wytheville. It's a hub Millwall's a hub for education, civic dialogue, cultural, music, arts. And we've just got to give them a life jacket. That's what they're asking for, is a life jacket. For operating purposes, they're not asking for us to make a payment on their loan. They're asking us to help them keep the door open. A perfect example, I'm going to use the Harvester in Rocky Mount, Virginia. Rocky Mount's got less than 5,000 people there. We got 8,200. We have 512 seats in our mill wall. They've got they got about a little over 400. The Harvester generated 1.1 million of annual economic activity in that town. The town's lodging tax grew over $150,000. And the mayor, and I'm going to quote him, he said, the town council, and I quote, the town council made a tough decision that was very unpopular. People hated the idea. Do we want to fund a music venue in Rocky Mount? Well, as it turned out, the idea has proven to be pretty prosperous. Rocky Mount's not the only small town that has given a life jacket. Roanoke City has invested over $3 million, and they give annually to the Jefferson Center. And everybody knows about the Barter Theater in Abingdon. Lord, people come from all over to visit the Barter. And their local government gives them over $200,000 annually And the barter's been in operation for God knows how long. But they need help too. So I don't think the mill wall is, I really can't, honestly, I can't support the 200,000, Ms. Atkins. I'm looking at about 150,000.
So that was like discussed before. So I don't know. Do you know why they wanted the other 50,000?
I think their initial, and correct me here, but somebody I'm sure here from the mill wall. Oh, pardon?
Donna and the rest.
Okay. I believe their initial request, Ms. Atkins, was 200,000.
Not to myself, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Not to. I mean, because I went and the awesome presentation, and I mean, phenomenal presentation, great facility. And we talked about some different things, maybe looking at doing senior pictures and like wedding venues to try to, help with things. But I know, if I remember correctly, was it 150,000 when we first talked, when both of us, all three of us talked on the slide?
It was 150, and when we went to the budget committee, talked about the possibility of I have no problem getting out of July. So it was suggested that we a little more in lieu of asking for some funding in the short.
Who suggested that? Like your all's board, or?
No, it was suggested that we'd be better served by just putting it in the annual budget and not asking for some piece to be carved out of the 24 fiscal budget.
Lester, can you come to the podium, please, if we're going to have dialogue?
I'm sorry.
They just can't hear
Okay.
online, and
Oh, yeah,
they have trouble hearing.
Thank you.
It was, when we originally presented, it was the 150 when we talked to you all. We went to the budget committee twice. And in one of those conversations, we're a little concerned about getting from now to July 1st. We're working on some other avenues in that regard. We had a presentation to the Joint Industrial Development Authority today about possibly having a revolving loan fund established by them that we feel positive about. So I can assure you we will be very content and very happy if you go with the 150. Anybody else got other questions about the mill wall?
So the Budget and Finance Committee suggested that you go ahead and ask for 200.
It was not suggested. It was more of a well, would it work the same if you went? We were going to ask for like 50,000 to get from now to July.
Okay.
We're not going to need to do that, I don't believe. We've still got a grant we can tap into from the Bland Foundation. And we also have worked a prospect with the Joint Industrial Development Authority for a very low cost line of credit. So we have to get that approved, obviously. but if that's the case and all we're talking about is funding, then I think we're good with the 150 that we initially referred to.
And I know we talked, and I really appreciate the tour and everything, and going down behind the scenes. I love that. It was really cool. I'm just real reserved with the town being at a shortfall right now. I'm just real reserved of even the 150. I wouldn't mind considering the 50 to try to get over the hump, and then maybe the town council can reevaluate it later. But that's just my concern, and I'm sorry. I am sorry. That's just my thoughts.
Anybody else got any questions?
I also think it's a great place. I think you all are going in the right direction. So don't think that I'm not for you, but I just have to look at where we're at in our budget. We cannot, I've got to think about the citizens as well.
Mm-hmm.
If we raise taxes, and I mean, those are things that I have to consider.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Right, so any other dialogue amongst more before we go? I still think we probably need to do it one by one.
Yes, ma'am. Now, what was the talk about open door? Was that the 10? Okay. I just want to try to make my notes and stay with the program. Sorry, thank you.
I have a question. Is this can we come up and talk at this point?
Please come up to state your name and your address, please.
Sure. My name's Christopher Fox. I'm 305 North 4th Street here in Wytheville. You had mentioned Open Door asked for 50, and
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Okay.
That's correct.
That's correct.
okay, and we had mentioned 10. The only reason I'm up here, I didn't plan on speaking. It's my first time here. I didn't know how this worked. But I went to one in Marion for an investment project that I had, and witnessed the process. And one of the things they were talking about there was Revita. It was one of the, like a rehab clinic. And a couple people were upset that they were going to move into their neighborhood and that type of thing. After the fact, one of the concerned citizens, we were talking about real estate in general. I'm a real estate agent. We were talking about real estate in general. And she said that the way that some of those programs have been run there weren't as effective as they could be to maybe deal with some of the homeless population in that area. So when I see something like Open Door ask for an amount of money, do we know what it's for?
Yes. Would you like me to answer that for you all? Help with
I
that?
mean, I think they requested it for a warming shelter.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Thanks. So,
And I could be wrong. I may have read this wrong.
To be clear, there is a distinction between what is going on in Marion versus what Hope is doing here. In Marion, there is a congregate warming shelter, meaning all of the folks that have that need are congregating in a church.
right.
And
So
here they're paying for providing hotel room vouchers so that people are spread around. That is a much more efficient program because they don't have to deal with food donations. They don't have to have an army of volunteers. They don't have to deal with health regulations. They don't have to deal with any of those things.
Yeah, we're on the same team at this point.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is if Open Door was asking for 50, right, I don't necessarily I would encourage you to really think about the 50, because if you look at what has happened in Marion and based on the, again, limited interaction that I've had with them, having a community advocate like Open Door to help facilitate the, for lack of a better word, control of that scenario, right, would be well worth the money. So if that's something that you could really consider giving them their full asking, I think that would be real beneficial to the community as opposed to limiting that and then having maybe a shortfall in the back end. So I don't represent Open Door. I'm just,
Well, with that being said, and I appreciate that, Mr. Fox, with that being said, can we find out what the 50,000 breakdown is, or does anybody? I know that we have a letter.
So you should have, the letter in your packet shows that this would shelter 125 nights next winter. So I think as Mr. Stidham came before the council a few months ago and indicated that they had worked out with at least one, but maybe two or three hotels, a $50 per room night voucher system. People present themselves to Hope daily when temperatures are projected to drop below a certain temperature. They provide them with a voucher. They provide the voucher to the lodging establishment, and then the process repeats itself the next day.
So this is a voucher from the hotels?
The voucher is from Hope,
right?
But the hotels have agreed to accept the voucher on sort of a deal.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we're putting some of that 10% tax money back into the community then too, if you do it that way. So,
and the letter indicates that the 50,000 we are anticipating needing. I'm sorry, excuse me. Let me correct myself. It says we're anticipating needing to provide shelter for approximately 125 nights next year. We can do that math, $50 into 50,000. Somebody who's sharper than I.
Mr. Stevens. Sorry.
I can do it with a calculator. That's 1,000 room nights. So I'm not sure. The math doesn't really jibe, but.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Freeman, in the letter it says most of the people are from Wytheville, Rural Retreat, and the Max Meadows Fort Chisholm. Do we know if the county or Rural Retreat gives them any money?
I'm not aware if they do or don't. I'm not sure, Mr. Gilman.
I reached out to one of the board members a couple of days ago. I hadn't got an answer.
Since the,
Well, I'm not going to say no. So please come on up and state your name and your address and
My name is Wendy
Short
Welch.
scenario.
I'm sorry?
a short scenario. I'm just
My name is Wendy Welch. I live at 550 Tazewell, and I volunteer with Hope and with the Wytheville Women's Club. Whatever they're going to do with the money, they're going to do it well. They're very careful. I do think it is more like 1,000 nights. And also, when Hope, not open, when Open Door is closed, we make meals and feed the people who are there. When you watch someone who is hungry eat, you will cry. Whatever they're going to do with that money, they're going to feed as many people as they can for as long as they can and keep as many people warm as they can for as long as they can. And those two highways, 81 and 77, are a double-edged sword for us in this town. They're keeping the town in revenue, but they're also keeping the town in people who are moving through. And I would like to state categorically and with all of my personal integrity that anything Open Door does with that money, they're going to do well. And $50,000 to invest in people who need to eat and need to sleep and not freeze is good money well spent. Thank you for allowing me to say that.
thank you.
And now I want to correct my math. So the letter indicates that they need 10 rooms per night for 125 nights. So it's 1,250 rooms, and they're saying they think they need 1,250 rooms, and they're asking you to pay for 1,000 of them.
10 rooms per night, right, Mr. Freeman?
10 rooms per night, and they're anticipating 125 nights next winter in which the temperatures will fall below 32 degrees.
But do we know where Hope has previously gotten those types of funds for? Because they've always needed those funds for warming shelters and stuff like that.
I personally know that some citizens has donated food during the winter.
And I know many council people have done that as well, other people in the audience. But, to me, Open Door, it's just such a big entity. And even though we're saying this money's going to go here and whatnot, but even it was admitted even when we were here talking about it and money was being given, that thank goodness it was not a COLA, but they actually already had enough money that they were just kind of getting enough for going forward. So I'm a little bit confused about that. We've never supported them that I know of as in this particular way before. I have some concerns about that too.
Mr. Freeman, is there any, or Mayor, Mayor Taylor or Mr. Freeman, do you think that this is just for the hotels? I know this is what the letter says.
Yeah, I have no reason to doubt that. I think he's clearly asking for $50,000 for 10 rooms per night, and that would give you 100 nights of providing 10 rooms. As for where they get the rest of their money, they have indicated that in the past. I don't know that I could quote it back to you precisely. I do know that through some DHC, some federal funding, they have some emergency housing money. I do think that they try to hold a lot of that back for families that become suddenly homeless. And so I know they don't want to deplete, and I don't mean to speak for them. This is just going from memory. I think that what they've asked is that, what indicated is that they like to hold some of that money back because they do have emergency situations with families that they'd like to put into emergency housing. Not necessarily room vouchers, but they might be able to put them in an actual room for an extended period of time through emergency funds. And as I understand it, I believe some of that was coming through DHCD. Or HUD through DHCD.
Mayor Taylor, would you like Mr. Freeman or Ms. Holden to try to figure out where more funding's coming from them? Would they help us maybe all make a decision better?
Well, I mean, it's going to be, I mean, we can't do it right now, get the information, that's for sure.
I mean, I just didn't know if this is something we can hold off on. I don't know if we can do that until.
That's up to you all.
I think the warming program is based on how much funds they get per year. If I remember correctly, when Mr. Stidham was here at our last meeting, they will fund as many people as they can. So, I think the request is for the warming program. So I think it's fair to say that whatever you grant them will be used for the warming program. Whether that's 5,000, 10,000, 50,000. I've heard three members say that they're in support of 10,000. So if that's seems to be the consensus, maybe that's a landing point on what your donation for council.
And one more question then. Okay, say for instance, if we go ahead and we make a recommendation, can they always come back, say in the wintertime when it's closer, and come back and ask for more, or do we have to stick to this 10?
Well, I think anybody can come back and ask, and then, it'd be up to the council to create a budget, to do a budget amendment at that point.
Thank you. Thanks for making that clear. Thank you.
Okay, any further dialogue? I mean, the format's been put in front of us. I mean, I didn't make the format, so we're going to, you want to re-vote on the brain injury or just move forward? That's what they've requested all along. If that's the case, then we go forward to the Wytheville Training School Culture Center.
I want to be fair to the brain injury. If we increased everybody else's, I don't want to leave them out. I want to be fair. If you want to increase theirs, I think we need to be fair to them, to give them the same opportunity as we've given everyone else.
Just remember, all this extra money that you're giving now, you might not give the woman shelter in the middle of the year. I mean, we've just got to, I think these are just really high. So what do we need to do to redo the first one?
Motion to make it.
Say that again?
Take it to another motion to make it.
So if we're going to start with the brain injury, we just need another motion.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the brain injury application from 500 to 1,000.
Second.
The motion and second, is there any discussion? Hearing none. Be a roll call vote. Councilwoman Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Right. Ayes have it. Next is the Wytheville Training School Culture Center. Any motion?
So moved.
What is your motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we award Wytheville Training School and Cultural Center $10,000.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
I have a motion, second. Is there any dialogue? I will say that I'm finding it difficult to support these higher things. So if sometime I don't support it, don't take it personally. I think we're just kind of putting ourselves in a pickle here. So we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Gilman?
Gilman, aye.
Peterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Those ayes have it. Next on the agenda is Edith Bowen Wilson, First Lady's Birthplace Museum. Need a motion?
I move that we appropriate $10,000.
A motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, is there any discussion? All right, roll call vote. Councilwoman Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
You can hear your name, but I guess Taylor, aye.
Peterson, aye.
Gilman, aye.
Right. Next on the list is with Grayson Regional Library.
I'd like to make a motion to appropriate $4,000 for the Wytheville Regional Library.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? No discussion, roll call vote. Gilman?
Gilman, aye.
Peterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Those ayes have it. Next is the Open Door Community. Need a motion?
Make a motion to appropriate $10,000 for the Hope Community.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Gilman?
Gilman, aye.
Peterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Next on the agenda is the Millwall Theater. Need a motion?
Move that we appropriate $150,000.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to ask if the town would consider making that 75, since right now we have a deficit.
270.
Well, you weren't good about that before.
Excuse me, Mayor Taylor, I'm sorry.
I said we weren't really very concerned about it here before.
Well, we are allowed to change our minds, aren't we? I mean,
Well, sure, that's dialogue.
are we?
Like I said, I was first informed it was just 150 when I went to go do the tours. You know, and I don't know if it's something maybe that we can bring back around, but not that I'm not for it. I think it's great for the community. It brings in numerous people, but just right now, I just think that 75 would be a good number.
Can we do 75 and revisit it, see where we're at in the budget, and do a revisit to see what we can do to help? I mean, it is a great place for people to visit, bring people to our community, and we revisit and see what else we can do. And we start at 75.
Ms. Johnson, would you revisit it in December of this year?
6 months.
Pardon?
We can, I will revisit
Ms.
it.
Atkins, would you revisit it?
I would like
within
to consider that
this year?
because I know that both when I went, and I know we may all been told a little something different, I do know that they were going to bring forth some different ideas, probably different income, and I'd be more glad to consider that in December. Yes, ma'am.
I'll be happy to.
Just because they did have some great ideas that they were looking at. So. Oh, Mr. Jones, I think, has something to say.
please come to the podium.
They're correct. We are working very hard to find additional sources. So the only ask I would ask on behalf of Millwall and would be that if you're going to split this to 75 now, can we get that 75 in the first part of the year? So because we also go to grants, we're asking for grants again in September from the Wytheville Foundation. We are starting to raise money from sponsorships and individual memberships and donations. So if you're going to revisit it in December, if we get effectively half the funding, and to clarify the 200, that was totally about just getting from here to there, which we've already sought another solution for.
No, sir. But I just want.
But if it could be structured that way, then I think the Millwall would be very appreciative, because the key for us right now is keep the doors open. Okay, as you know, we're only 17 months into operation now. What we've pulled off here is not to be, looked at. I mean, we've managed to. The total we have now invested in Millwall Theater is pushing $5.2 million. That's how much we've been able to do. Now that includes y'all $600,000 from the beginning to get it bought. We still owe a loan against a bank for about $410,000, and every bit of that other is paid for. Now, how we paid for that was we had about $1.3 million in private donations from citizens throughout the community and really around the country. We raised somewhere north of $2.3 million in federal and state tax credits and grants that will never have to be paid back to create the asset here. And then the last thing we've gotten over the course of the years, we got a little over $200,000 from the Wytheville Foundation to go toward getting it built. And they have generously, and I mean generously, they funded us $150,000 in our first year of operations. And the same thing from them. They want to see us get more independent. So in the second year, they cut that to 75. But what it's about now is giving us time to get on our feet. And after we've managed to do this and really put, if you add those two up, the various grants, I think we're about 1,723. So we've managed to put $4 million into this community right on Main Street. And if Mr. Patel is here, I'll tell you, a lot of it is about tourists that come. We've had 15,000 people come into the Millwall in the first 16 months. A lot of it's about community. We have many activities that we don't charge a dime for. We bring the kids in. We do all kinds of cultural enrichment. So, but if you can give us that lifeline, it's really critically needed. So if you want to go 75, if you would go 75 and commit to relook at in December, we'll come in, we'll give financial reports, full disclosures all along the way. But if it could be funded up front, that would be extremely helpful.
Rusty, when you say up front, do you mean on or about July 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That would be very, very helpful.
On or soon after.
Yeah, once y'all get your budget done. And look, we know y'all got hard choices to make. We all make them too. But just know we've spent personally, I've spent close to 12 years on this project of my time. And we did this for the town. And people ask me all the time, who owns the Millwall Theater? Who is it? And I tell them it's the Millwall Theater Incorporated, a nonprofit. Everyone does. It's your theater. It's your theater. It's everybody here's. It's our community. We are accountable to you guys. We're accountable to everyone in our community. And our goal is simply that. But I do know that from the example of the Harvester, if we can turn the corner and get through these next couple of years, I think you'll be more than happy that you were in line with supporting the bill.
And I appreciate you sharing that, Mayor. I think Vice Mayor read some of it, possibly, maybe. Like I said, I was just a little shocked when I did get the agenda and see. I know when I went, I think it was 150, and then it changed to 200. I'm like, well, gosh, And I told you that day I was reserved, you and Mr. Bowles as well, that I myself, but I did not want to speak for anybody else. So,
okay.
But I do appreciate you coming forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty. We are vested, $600,000 vested in that mill wall. And little life jacket right now for them, just for operational purposes. We need to do this. Under our leadership, we could be that driving force in this community. We could be.
I could do the 75, July 1st. Just picking. Anyway, whenever you all decide, Mr. Freeman and, Mr. Stevens. But anyway, that's just my opinion, but I could foresee the 75 and then relook at it in December.
And we would ask the Millwall to come back and furnish financial reports.
Because we did mention, I thought it'd be the coolest wedding venue,
Absolutely.
And then I think they had mentioned something about senior portraits and things like that, so.
Yeah.
All right, so the motion on the table is,
The motion on the table is $150,000, Mayor. You would need a motion to amend to the new number, then vote on the motion to amend, then you would vote on the amended motion. So if you're wanting to change the 75,000, it needs to be a motion to amend to that.
Mayor Taylor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the 150 to 75,000 at this time, and then revisit it after they bring the financial statements in December to see where we are, to maybe get closer to some figures, or however that would come about. That's my motion.
so I have a motion to amend. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? I hear none. This is going to be a roll call vote. Alderman Johnson.
Johnson.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Yeah,
So that motion has it. So then we,
You need a vote on the amended motion at this time.
right, so we have an amended motion that was for 150.
So it's now for 75,000 because you passed the amendment.
All right, so we have a motion for 75,000.
So moved.
Motion and second.
Second.
Motion second. Dialogue. And now roll call vote. Mr. Gilman.
Gilman, aye.
Benson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson.
All right, so moving forward in the agenda, I think we're got through all that. We're going to consider ordinance number 1430, an ordinance amending and reenacting ordinance number 1028, generally known as the personnel rules, regulations, and policies of the town of Wytheville, Virginia, so as to amend section 6 benefits, subsection 6.4 retirement benefits on first reading. Mr. Freeman, do you have any?
Mayor Taylor, before you is a report on other post-employment benefits, or OPEB. OPEB is defined as benefits other than pension distributions that employees may begin to receive from their employer once they retire. OPEB can include life insurance, health insurance, and deferred compensation. Per Section 6 benefits, subsection 6.4 retirement benefits of the town's personnel ordinance, employees with 25 years of service who are eligible to retire under the Virginia retirement system are also eligible to remain on the town's insurance plan, with the town contributing 50% of the monthly premium up to $300 for a period of no more than 5 years, or until the employee becomes eligible for Medicare, whichever is first. Employees who receive the hazardous duty supplement are not eligible to receive this benefit. In 2013, this benefit began and has not been modified since, except to disqualify these employees. Further, this benefit has not increased in spite of significant increases in employee health insurance premiums over that time frame. The ordinance caps the amount paid toward the premium at $300. This is a cost control measure, but it also diminishes the value of the retirement benefit over time without a clear mechanism for adjustment. To remedy it, I do recommend that the council remove the $300 cap. The ordinance does not account for differing rates of available insurance plans. For example, the KA 250 plan has a premium of $1,064 a month, and the KA 500 plan has a premium of $948 per month. To level the benefit amongst all program participants, and this is for all program participants prior to retirement, Anthem requires that the town average these two premiums and then establish a fixed amount the town will contribute to each employee regardless of the plan they choose. We refer to this as the blended rate. To remain consistent with this approach, it is recommended that the town consider amending the ordinance to pay 50% of the blended rate rather than 50% of the monthly premium. This will ensure equitable benefit to qualifying retirees regardless of the plan they choose. It is difficult to precisely predict the cost of the benefit because it is largely determined by several factors that the town cannot control. For example, some employees retire as soon as they're eligible and receive the benefit for the full 5 years, and others continue to work until or even beyond Medicare age, foregoing the benefit altogether. What we can do is map out the potential cost for what is likely to occur based on both objective data and a few subjective assumptions. Objective data includes information such as the health insurance plan cost and the likely annual cost escalation, as well as each employee's years of service, their age, when they will become Medicare eligible, and when they will qualify for VRS. From this information, we can make subjective inferences as to when the employee might be likely to retire, but we will not truly know until the employee initiates their retirement. We can assume that employees with less than 30 years in the Virginia retirement system, or those that are more than 5 years from Medicare eligibility, are less likely to retire than those that are fully vested and have five or fewer years until Medicare eligibility. Utilizing the criteria outlined above and assuming an 8% annual premium cost escalation, it is estimated that the town will need to increase its contribution to the OPEB fund as follows, and you do have a chart in your packet. Keeping in mind that this will need to be monitored and adjusted annually to ensure the program is properly funded. Just to be clear, these are annual transfers from the general fund to the OPEB fund. So the OPEB fund carries a balance. It currently has about $120,000 in it, and the town historically puts about $24,000 a year into that fund already, and I assume has done approximately that since the fund began. I'm looking at Mike. For reference, the town currently contributes $24,000 annually to the OPEB fund, and in my estimation, we'll need to contribute about $40,000 in the coming fiscal year. That'll go up to $45,000, $55,000, cap out at $60,000 for a few years, and then it'll begin to come back down. The reason for this is that after that we analyze this out for 10 years, and the number of employees becoming eligible drops precipitously, as about half of the employees in the next 10 years that reach the 25-year minimum service level will not do so before reaching Medicare eligibility. There is a demographic right after that first 10 years that has a little more age on them than many of our employees that are about to retire out started much younger. We've got a group that came in their 40s and 50s and will end up becoming Medicare eligible before they reach the 25 years of service. So there's a significant drop in the number of employees from year 10 to year 20 that are not ever going to be eligible because they'll hit that Medicare age. The summary of my recommendations are to remove the $300 cap, to increase the benefit to 50% of the blended rate to align with the current employer-offered insurance benefit requirements, restore the benefit to all employees regardless of their hazardous duty benefit status, and to keep the benefit at the current 5-year limit. I know Ms. Atkins had asked about looking at that for 7. We looked at it out to 10. What I can tell you is that at the cost at 5 years, I would estimate a 60% increase to go. I think did you say 8?
I think in my notes I had 8. Let me look at, yes, sir, 8 years.
So that would add about 60% to the cost because you're going from 3 to 8, so about 60% more.
Well, I thought it says we were going from 5 to 8, not 3 to 8.
If I misspoke, it would be from 5 to 8. Okay. It says in there to 8. My recommendation is just as a cost control measure is to keep it at 5, but the council can debate that and do whatever you wish.
Since you didn't suggest 8, is there any way that we can look at 7 years then?
Again, I think that's up to you all. I think it's a tremendous benefit. I think we're increasing from $300 to about $503 right now. As it sits, it will increase from $300 cap to about $503 a month. That's about $2,400 a year for a period of 5 years. I think it's that makes it a $9,400 benefit.
There's no guarantee that those individuals will stay till the time.
Correct. I mean, you have to be with us, with this organization for 25 years. And most people, if they're able, try to stay to 30. That's the full, that lets you retire with VRS with an unreduced benefit. So you factor in all those things. You look at their age. We analyze that to July 1st for every July 1st for 10 years to see who might be likely to. And honestly, we've got some employees that are 42, 43, 45 that have 24 years in already. But they're so far from Medicare eligibility and still haven't hit that 30-year mark. It's, could they go? Maybe. But I just think it's highly unlikely that those people would go before they're that young. I mean, but it's possible.
I would like the council to consider 7 and not 8 instead of the 5.
Ms. Freeman, how often is this relooked at?
Well, I think every budget year we need to take a look at the fund balance in the OPEB funds. Right now it's got about $120,000 in it. There's only one employee on that benefit. Every year we need to look at it and adjust our funding level, just like Virginia Retirement System or any other program like this does. They look at I'll say this was a very amateur actuarial study, but I think we should look at it annually to see what contribution we need to make to it to keep it floating.
So that would be an opportunity to doing it every year to, if the funds are appropriate there, then if they can put out the years a little bit further at that time.
I think you could. I would caution fluctuating that from year to year. You're going to get an employee that leaves in 2024 that gets 5, and one that leaves in 26 that gets 7, and then frankly, I mean, history tells us that once things kind of go up, they don't really seem to come down. If that makes sense, I would not imagine, and it becomes very difficult, I'll say, politically, and even if that just means politically with your employees, to begin pulling benefits away. So,
Ms. Atkins, I would ask you to go with what Mr. Freeman is presenting to us.
Yeah. I know that Mr. Freeman and I talked about it some, and like I said, I know I had mentioned 8. I wouldn't mind. I'd like the council to look at 7.
Respectfully, Ms. Atkins, I don't agree with the 7-year limit. I like what the recommendation is, the 5-year limit. After all, we've removed the $300 cap, which is nice. We're adding the hazardous duty status people in. That's nice too. I feel like between those two, it's a little more inviting. And like he said, look at it annually.
Okay. So this is coming, and I'm just wanting to make clear on my notes. So instead of coming from like a budget and finance committee, take the recommendations from the town manager, correct?
Budget and finance we haven't.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking. I just want to make sure it's coming from a recommendation from the town manager and not budget and finance.
well, and I can explain that. Budget and finance actually did look at this, and I believe was okay with 50% of the premium. Pretty sure, but okay. But I changed it. So I couldn't suggest that they made these changes. What I changed it to was instead of 50% of the monthly premium, it'd be 50% of the blended rate, which levels it for every employee. Right now, let's just say, for example, I don't mind just saying it, I am in the high deductible plan. The blended rate right now is about $1,000. Is it $1,006? something like that. The blended rate right now, premium rate, is $1,006. The town pays 92.7% of the blended rate toward every employee. Well, my premium happens to be lower than the blended rate, so I don't have to pay an insurance premium because the amount the town pays on the blended rate is already more than the monthly premium for that plan. But the reason Anthem does that is so that, if I can pick on Sherry, just if Sherry picks the 500 plan and Elaine picks the 250 plan, the town does not need to pay more benefit to Sherry or to Elaine based on what insurance they pick or they're able to choose. It provides you with one level number for every participant. So I modified that.
I just want to make that clear that you model, that it was not coming from a committee,
But
budget and finance committee, right? I just want to make sure that I was clear on that.
Do you care to do 7 with the revisit next year? That too much, right?
Yeah, that's too much.
I think we need to be a little bit frugal. This sounds so simple and so easy. I mean, we don't know how much that's going to take out of our budget as each year goes by. And the fact that we can address it at a later time and see if the funds are there, I think we start need to be a little bit more frugal with some of these things that we want to do years off.
I just would like to see a benefit to the employees, I mean, I'm sure that we all do, the ones that may be eligible to retire in the next year or 2 or even 5, just offer something, because I'm sure it's been 5 for several years.
I think it's been 5 since 2013.
But nobody's brought to our attention until you did.
Well,
So that's probably why it never got increased at that time.
I just think we all give suggestions. I'm sorry. Not really, I'm not sorry. I just wanted to bring it a thought. So.
All right, so do we have a motion on the table?
I don't believe so.
Mayor Taylor, I'd like to make a motion if we could go 6 years instead of the 5 or the 8 suggested.
There's a motion on the table for dropping the third 300, 50% of the blended health insurance, and
restore all the benefits for the regardless on hazard duty benefit, right. And also change the benefit from 5 to 6.
It's a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hear none, this will be a roll call vote. Councilwoman Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Taylor, no.
Patterson, no.
Gilman, no.
So that,
So before we move forward, what will it remain as? What you?
Well, that hasn't been approved. So right now it stays the same as it's written currently, unless there's another motion on the floor
so.
or another vote.
We can have another motion on the table.
Well, to keep them from having nothing at all, I would like to make a motion to remove the $300 cap, increase the benefit 50% of the blended premium to align with the current employer insurance benefit requirements, restore the benefit to all employees regardless of hazard duty benefit status, and keep the benefit at a current 5 years. That's better than nothing.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? In a roll call vote, Mr. Gilman?
Gilman, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Taylor, aye.
Atkins, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Thank you. Moving forward, consider the request of Wytheville Farmers Market for issuance of a raffle permit for calendar year 2024. Just need a motion from council.
I move that we issue the Wytheville Farmers Market raffle permit for the calendar year 2024.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye as well. The motion passes. Next is to consider the request of Wytheville Training School Culture Center for issuance of a raffle permit for calendar year 2024. I need a motion.
So moved.
Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye as well. That motion passes. Next is to consider adopting a resolution of appreciation for Devoted to You for a Christmas to Remember event.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye as well. Any opposed? That motion passes. Next is to schedule a public hearing for May 13, 2024, Town Council meeting to receive bids and consider the sale for a non-exclusive franchise privilege, lease, or right for an electric heat and power transmission and distribution system in the town of Wytheville. Mr. Freeman, can you help us with that?
Mayor Taylor, this is pretty routine. This is just something that's come up for renewal, which is the franchise agreement, as you described, for electrical heat and power transmission. Current holder of this franchise is Appalachian Electric Power. It does prior to executing a franchise agreement, the council has to hold a public hearing to consider their bid.
Okay.
Or any other bids.
Or any other bids should they materialize. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay.
At this time, we need a motion to set the public hearing, please, for May 13th, 2024. Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? I hear none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye as well, any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Next is citizens period. Anybody that signed up citizens period that we'll proceed on. Presentations to Town Council. Presentation by Director of Planning, Dr. John Woods, regarding the crosswalk project at East Main Street at the entrance of Wytheville Community College and the Hardee's Restaurant. Thank you for waiting.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Let's see. On your screen, you'll see the sketch that was provided to VDOT for the proposed crosswalk. This is located across from between the Hardee's Restaurant and that object you see in the grass there is the Wytheville Community College sign structure. And that was the location that VDOT's traffic engineer recommended for this particular facility. I checked with VDOT and they informed me that they have bundled all of the VHSIP projects that were funded in the Bristol district to be advertised for simultaneous bid, and their target date is sometime in early to mid-fall to have that go out to bid. I have not seen their actual plans for how they propose to make the crosswalk. They've told me that we should be seeing something in the next few months. They have a consultant that's doing all of these plans for basically all of these similar projects in the Bristol district. To give you an idea of what the improvements are, one of the things that they'll be adding is high visibility crosswalks. The image you see on the screen is a night view of how that works. Basically, they have a reflective paint that when your headlights hit it, it shines and makes it more obvious. And this striping configuration is the preferred way to make a crosswalk more visible. The other thing that it will include are what's called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon, and those are shown here in this image. They're a LED light that flashes in a little bit unusual pattern to get people's attention. They can be set up either to be operated by push button by the pedestrian, or they can be equipped with motion detectors of various types that would detect somebody walking past and activate the signal so that you get a few false activations if somebody walks by and doesn't intend to cross, but it does help protect children who might not know how to use the device, and gives a little more likelihood of catching, making sure that people are aware that pedestrians are in the area. These can be operated by solar power or hardwired in. Solar power is often preferred because it's more cost effective than having to run a metered system. The other thing that it will include is a median island. And there's basically two types. The top image you'll see is one that, basically it's just a refuge. The pedestrian walks straight through. The lower image shows the offset type. And what these are designed to do is, as you walk to the median, it forces you to turn to the right and walk a few steps before you complete the crossing. And what that does is it points you in the direction of oncoming traffic so that it makes the pedestrian more aware of what they're doing. And I don't know which system VDOT will be proposing, but those are the options that are there. We're told that this should go out to bid in the fall. We're not completely certain about that because these goals one project could hold up these for a few months depending on what happens. But that's the status. Any questions I can answer?
I have a quick question, little one. Does the height of pedestrian, say if it's just a child, are they tall enough with a signal or whatever to flash? Or do you have to be higher?
Well, the motion detectors are generally pointed down, and so even a dog walking past could set it off if it's a motion detector based, but they'll virtually always have that push button to activate it.
And the Mayor Taylor, John, correct me if I'm wrong, the push button would always be at an ADA required height so that someone sitting in a wheelchair would be able to reach it. So in most cases, a small, I'll say a 10-year-old or 6 to 10-year-old could probably reach that.
Generally very easily.
And activate that.
Great presentation.
We did, in contacting VDOT, we did get a little early good news. We applied for a similar project this past fall for the Monroe Street Peppers Ferry Road corridor, and we learned today that was approved. All 4 segments of that were approved. Now that's budgeted for the 2027 year for construction, so that's a little further out.
Thank you so much. That's great to hear.
That's fantastic news. And John, I don't remember the amount. I remember it was about a $1.1 million project.
$1.2 million, I believe.
Great job.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Thank you.
John. Thank you, Dr. Leeds.
Next on the agenda is new business.
Nothing at this time, Mayor Taylor.
All right, reports, upcoming meetings, Town Clerk Sherry Corbin.
Yes, I have just a few. The Joint Industrial Development Authority of Wythe County will meet on Thursday, April the 25th at 3 p.m. The location is to be determined yet. The Town of Wytheville will hold a traffic calming input session for Mountain View Drive on Thursday, May the 2nd from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Wytheville Meeting Center. The Tree Advisory Committee will meet on Thursday, May 9th at 8:30 a.m. in Conference Room A. The Wytheville Planning Commission will meet on Thursday, May 9th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. And the next scheduled meeting of the Wytheville Town Council will be held on Monday, May 13th at 5 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Review of committee reappointments and vacancies.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. You have a listing in your package of all the committee vacancies or reappointments that will be made in 2024. The one that has the most current expirations will be the Tree Advisory Committee. They have 2 members coming off on May the 14th, and these members are not eligible for reappointment, and we still have 1 vacancy on that board. So that will be the most forthcoming one. And that's all I have.
Can I ask one quick? I just want to get clarification. If for some reason we don't have any applicants, does the person that's actually serving at the time still continue until we have applicants? I just want to make sure.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. They serve until their successor is appointed.
Thank you.
And that's a good question because somebody asked me that for the airport.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember time, Mr. Newman.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to get Public Works to look at the potholes at the corner of Tazewell and East Pine Street. And also have citizens complain about people when they're picking up their kids just parking in the middle of the road.
Specific, you're talking about the
Spiller.
And Speller. Yeah.
Vice Patterson?
Nothing right now.
I have nothing.
Shocking when I've had nothing.
Is that for both
Sorry
of
to
you,
put
or-
it down.
No, just for me, just for me.
I thought you said Ms. Johnson and I.
No, I said shocking enough. Shocking enough. Write this down. Yeah, y'all better write this down.
No coming back. All right, Ms. Johnson.
Sorry to put a damper on it, but I do have a couple of things. Was anyone able to reach out to the owner of the paperclip in regards to the discussion of the vehicles going around left turning vehicle?
I'll have to check. I had asked, I had talked to Lieutenant Bart about that. I'm not sure.
Okay, cool. Thank you. If you just look into it, I'd appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Also, how many retirees did we have for December? I was approached by someone. Do we normally give plaques to our 25 to 30 year retirees?
Yeah, I'll have to check on that. I know that there was a period there, and Beth, you may help me remember, during COVID where those kind of got backlogged, and I thought we caught that up last year. So I'll have to come back. We'll have to look and see if
This past December,
it's possible that someone could have retired in December and missed that because we did a catch up because I think that we were probably 2 or 3 years behind. Just COVID just kind of shut all that down for a little while, but we caught up. But there could have been some.
There was a gentleman that retired, I think, that had 30 years of service.
Okay.
And
if you want to just let me know
I'll shoot
after.
you that.
Yeah.
We'll take care of that
Perfect.
together. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would like for, at some point, for us to have a discussion to possibly approve Ms. Corbin to attend the VML conference for continuing education purposes, as well as Mrs. Jones and Ms. Bedwell, if there is some sort of continuing education that we can send them to. I would like to see that in the future, please.
I know they do their own stuff with the clerks. Maybe that, I don't know how many different ones.
Well, Randy Jones is currently attending to get her certified municipal clerk's designation, and once she finishes, it's about a 3-year process.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ms. Bedwell will be eligible to go.
Okay, and then I'd like to see you attend the VML conference. There were several clerks there back in October.
Thank you. I appreciate
And
that.
I'd like for you to have the opportunity to attend as well.
Thank you.
One ironic thing is the clerks organization was having their annual meeting the same time we were at VML, but they were over the next beach over. So, one of y'all were there. Randy was there.
Randy, yes, I've been.
I just like
So
for
they
her-
do have continuing education going
I'd
on.
like to have her to have that opportunity with VML, please. Thank you. That's all. I
Next
have.
on the agenda is any council committee reports. So, y'all know what committee you're on? Nothing from the homestead, nothing from, they don't do anything over there at that housing, do they?
Yes, ma'am, they do.
I know they do.
I'm sorry, I had to miss, actually had, work and I could not go this past time, but normally I don't miss, no, ma'am, I try to make my committees.
Any- Nothing,
No, what days, Ms. Atkins, is Mr. Questenberry going to be able to fulfill his commitment on the committee at the housing?
Well, I'd rather not say. I would believe that'd be maybe HIPAA violation, and I do apologize, but I do think that's uncalled for. I do think that's uncalled for. I do make my meetings regardless what people think.
well, I wouldn't say no.
No, I'm just saying they do a lot of, they do a
The
lot.
only reason I
over
said
there.
that is because we have this, and if we don't want to use it, let's just do it away with it off the agenda, because most of us don't have anything to say.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Mayor Joe, you could have put it really in those terms. I'm not being offensive, but you could have put it in those terms besides saying they don't do
Well, I
anything.
apologize.
They do a huge amount of deal up there for the elderly.
I apologize.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
And the only thing I have is that with the tree committee is that we have Tree City USA this Friday. I think it's Friday next, yeah, this Friday. I think it's around 10 o'clock. It's on Church Street, next to the funeral parlor. So if anybody's off and not working, I'm sure the town people would appreciate you seeing you there. So. Anything else come before this committee? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all for your patience.